Do snare wires really make that much of a difference on your snare drum sound? Well, let's go ahead and find out. And in this Snare Saturday video, I'm gonna put every snare wire that Canopus Drums has to offer on the Ludwig Epic Brick, a 20-ply birch snare drum, to see if snare wires really make a difference on a drum shell that's a whole lot thicker than your traditional shell. For those of you who are new to the channel, hi, welcome. My name is Costa, and I am a drummer from Philly, PA. And being that so many drummers, as soon as they get a snare drum, replace the snare wires with something else, one of the videos that I feature in the Snare Saturday series is putting a bunch of different snare wires on various drums. That way you can hear the difference that they make. So we're gonna continue that trend with the Ludwig Epic Brick, a 20-ply birch snare drum that is really direct and super loud. Now, before we dive into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon. That way you're notified of any additional content that I upload to the channel. Now let's go ahead and get started with the specs of the Ludwig Epic Brick. This drum is a 20-ply birch snare drum, and it is 6.5 by 14. That is depth by diameter. This drum is outfitted with the Ludwig Keystone lug, which you would see on the Epic series drums. It is a 10-lug snare drum, so there are 10 lugs on the top and 10 lugs on the bottom. This drum is also outfitted with 2.3mm triple flange hoops, a very generic throw-off end butt plate, as well as a set of generic snare wires. Now for this video, the drum will be outfitted with a Remo CS dot coated head on the top and an Ambassador snare side on the bottom. Why? Because I like the way that the CS dot coated sounds on this drum compared to a single ply coated head. Are you a music educator? And are you somebody who needs to help students specifically in drum set? Well, you have the chance to take a graduate level drum set course at Westchester University's Summer Institute. Join Mark DiCiani and myself July 21st through the 25th at Westchester University of Pennsylvania's campus, where we will dive into playing the drum set. There are 2 sections that will be running simultaneously: Drum Set Essentials and Advanced Drum Set. So you get to do something fun like playing the drum set for an entire week. You can get graduate level credit or Act 48 professional development hours, and one lucky attendee is going to get the chance to walk away with this Zildjian 16-inch A Fast Crash. So for more information, visit wcupa.edu/WSMI, and we look forward to seeing you all in July. Now let's go ahead and talk about all of the snare wires that are going to be featured in this video. They are all made by Canopus Drums, and it is every set of snare wires that they have to offer. There are 2 different lines, the Vintage series and the Backbeat series. So if I search through, I'm pretty sure, here we are, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Vintage series snare wires. Just kidding, it's actually 3. So we have 3 different sets of Canopus vintage wires. 2 of them are 20 strands. One is known as the dry set, and then the other is a chrome plated set. Canopus recommends that you put the dry set on wood drums and the chrome plated set on metal drums. Finally, there is a 16 strand model, because if you are looking for a vintage set of snare wires and you are putting them on a vintage drum, you may notice that a lot of the snare wires from back in the day were 16 strands, unlike 20 strands, which is more common on today's snare drums. Now for the Backbeat series, the 2 traditional snare wires are 20 strands, once again in a dry and chrome plated configuration. And of course, they make 2 of the wider snare wire configurations, a 30 and 42 strand option. So if you are looking for a lot of snare wire articulation, Canopus recommends going for that vintage wire. Whereas if you are a heavier hitter and you still want to get some good snare response out of the drum as well, that's where the Backbeat models come into play. Now, for a drum like the Ludwig Epic Brick, you would think since it is so heavy, you really have to dig in and lay into this drum. But based on the older Snare Saturday videos, you don't actually have to do that, and it does have a pretty broad tuning range. However, for this video, just to make it as equal of a playing field as possible, I'm going to keep the drum in the same tuning and swap out from one snare wire to the next. I'm going to start out with the generic snare wires from the Ludwig factory. Then I'm going to move over to the vintage wires. I'll start out with the 20 strand models, the dry version first, then the chrome plated version. After that, I'll transition over to the 16 strand snare wires from the vintage series. Then I'll switch over to the Backbeat series. So we'll start out with the more traditional 20 strand models. Once again, dry version first, then the chrome plated one. Then finally wrapping up with the larger snare wires, the 30 strand and the 42 strand model. So, enough of me talking, let's dive in. So after hearing the 7 snare wires that Canopus has to offer, as well as the generic wires from the Ludwig factory, which one was your favorite? And could you actually hear a difference? I'd love to know, so make sure that you leave it in the comment section below. If you are interested in getting any of the snare wires that were featured in this video, or the Canopus snare wire belt that I use to attach the wires to the throw-off and butt plate, I've put affiliate links to everything in the description below. Also, if you have any other additional questions, maybe how I was tuning the drum, or maybe the gear that I'm playing, or anything else, feel free to leave all of that in the comment section, and I will try my best to answer them. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see some of the earlier Snare Saturday videos where I do the same exact thing with a few different drums, I've put links to those videos in the description below. And if you want to check out the entire Snare Saturday series, I've put a link to the playlist in the description below. I'll also have it come up right here to make it a bit easier for you. Finally, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you give it a thumbs up. That not only makes it easier for others to find it, it is a free and easy way to support the channel. And that is it. Thank you so much for checking out this video on Do Snare Wires Really Affect the Sound of a Thicker Snare Drum? And until next time, see you later.